This is lesson 1-4. I would like you need out your vocabulary sheets for chapter 1. So if you do not have them out, pause this video right now and pull them out. So hopefully you have your sheets out. Different terms that we're going to look at, ray, opposite rays, all of these are on your sheet. So I'm going to flip over to what your sheet should look like. Term number 16 is that you have a ray. This is something that keeps going in one direction. As we're looking at a picture of it, you can have, let me get my pen to work here. A lot of times you'll have a ray like this. It'll have an arrow on one end and it'll have a point on the other end. Okay, so I can have A and then you have another B. When you're naming that, you can put A, B, and you always have to have the arrow pointing to the right, which isn't a big issue for this one. But when you have a ray that points like this, let's say I have the letter C and D on it. When you're naming a ray, you always have to have the endpoint letter first. So even though when you're looking at it left to right, the letter C comes first, I need to put the letter D first and then C, and it always points to the right. Okay, take note of that, keep that written down as you're going through it. Okay, so a ray is something that keeps going in one direction. Not that important of a term, but I just want you to know in case it comes up in direction a little bit, but sometimes I'll say draw two opposite rays. Two opposite rays are rays that just go in the opposite directions and they make a straight line. So they would share a point in the middle, let's say point X, and then you have one maybe going this way. Let's say Y is over here. So XY goes this way, and then XZ goes the other way. So you have two rays that together make a straight line. Mainly be aware of that just for when it comes up in directions. Next is a really important term. It's an angle. And what's really important is you need to know how to name angles. So that in the directions, when they say angle QRS, you're able to find angle QRS in the picture. So an angle is made up of two rays. So you can have a ray going up like this and another one going like this. Okay, I'm just going to put A up on the top here, B down here, and C down there. Now if you just have a picture like this, you can simply call it by the vertex, which is the point where the two rays come together. So my vertex here is B. So I can simply call this angle B. So you put a little angle symbol and B. You also could call this by its three-letter name. Not required to in this situation though, and I'll show you how that goes in a second. Sometimes they'll put a number, so like if I put the number 1 here, I could also call this angle 1. Okay, angle B or angle 1 would be fine in this circumstance, and you want to keep things as simple as possible. However though, sometimes you have a little bit more complicated situation. For example, let me draw an angle, a little bit bigger angle. And I'm going to put a Q over here, an R at the vertex here, and an S over here. And then I'm going to draw another ray from R, just kind of splitting it, and I'm going to put T on there. Now for this, I cannot simply call this angle R because there's 3 angle R's in this picture. There's kind of the top angle, which I could call angle QRT. There's a smaller angle over here, which I could call angle TRS. And there's a big angle that goes around the whole thing, angle QRS. Okay, you need to use the 3-letter names because if I just angle R, I wouldn't know which one of those three I'm looking at. So if I'm talking about the one that is on this part here, then I would name it angle QRT. And also with these letters, if you're using the 3-letter name, you can reverse it and say it backwards. It's still the same thing. So angle TRQ is exactly the same. If I want to talk about the smaller angle over here that kind of goes like this, then you would want to say angle TRS. Or if you want to say the big one that goes around the outside, I would name that QRS. So angle QRS. Okay, those are the ways you use your 3-letter names as you're going through it. Okay, make sure you're able to pick those out and understand it. If you're not getting it, make sure you ask for help, because there are students that months later from now, okay, when they read the directions, they don't know how to pick that out. So if you are not understanding how to pick out where, when it says angle QRT, what part of the picture it's talking about, talk to me so that I can help you out. The next term is a side. Okay, the side of the angle is one of the rays that makes it up. So let's say that we're talking about angle 1, and I want to know the sides of angle 1. I would say that BA, with it going like that, that's one side, and the other one would be BC up there. Okay, so it has two sides up there. So when they ask you in your homework to do that, you're looking for the two rays that make up the line there. The interior is inside. Okay, so if you have an angle, if they want to point on the interior, this is the interior part in here of the angle. Okay, exterior then, of course, is going to be outside the angle. So this is the interior part of the angle. Then anything out here, okay, this out here, like over here, this is exterior of the angle. Degrees are what we use to measure angles. When you see a little M, and then it says like angle A, B, C. That little M just means the measurement of the angles, okay? And then they will say equal some degrees, let's say 17 degrees, okay? So that's what they're looking for there when they do measurement of different things. Just be aware, angles are normally measured in degrees for what you guys are doing right now. I'm not going to put anything in the boxes there. Another term we have, an acute angle. It's smaller than 90 degrees. So something like this would be acute, okay? Anything up to 90 degrees. Something that is exactly 90 degrees, and we're going to talk about perpendicular lines a lot of time. Right angle and perpendicular lines go together a lot. So when you have a line that comes straight down, okay, and another one, that is going to be perpendicular, making a right angle. They'll mark it with a box there, okay? So look for 90 degrees. An obtuse angle is an angle that's bigger than 90 degrees. Okay, but still smaller than 180 because we normally don't go past 180, and 180 would be a straight line. So more than 90, so it's past the point of being a right angle here, but yet it's not over 180. And the last term is an angle bisector. We talked about bisector already with segments. An angle bisector is a ray that cuts the angle into two equal parts. So if I have an angle going like this, let's call it L, M, N. If I have a ray that comes through the middle here, let's put the point P there on that, it's going to split angle LMN in half. So they would say something like this. They would say that MP with the arrow pointing over the P bisects angle LMN. What that means then is that angle LMP, this top half here, is going to be congruent to angle PMN, the other half over here. And notice how I'm putting these little arc marks? That's the way in the picture of saying that two angles are congruent. And when you have an angle bisector, the two parts are going to be congruent. So when you look at your homework and you're looking at this, and they say the directions, which make sure you read the directions, if they say that something is bisecting the angle, then you can take the algebra from these two parts and set them equal to each other. So you need to know how to use a protractor. Okay. First of all, when you're using the protractors that I have, remember you want the smooth side up. You want to take this little part right here in the middle, I call it the crosshairs, and you want to line that up on the vertex of the angle over here. So I need to take this and line it up on there. Now students often get confused on which scale to use. Well, you need to line up this, there's kind of a light line going here. Line it up with the 0, 180 mark over here, which is pretty good right now. Okay. The one that has the 0 part on the line that you're lining up with, that's the scale that you're using. So here I'm using the inside scale because we're going to start at 0, go around 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, all the way across till we get to 130. I'm past 130, so this is about 131, maybe 132 degrees. Okay, I'll give you a degree or so of lenience when you're measuring them as you go through it. Okay, so in order to know which scale to use, line it up, get the crosshair on the vertex, line up the bottom part of the angle with 0 degrees, and then use the scale that starts at 0 degrees. So here I'm using the inside scale. Now when I go to an angle that's faced the other way, I still need to line up the crosshairs. This time, and make sure you line up the bottom line, this time 0 is the outside scale. So now I'm going 0, 10, 20, 30, 35, 36, looks like it's right about 37 degrees here. Okay? Always do this also. Logically think about your angle. Look at it, okay? This is a acute angle. Remember we said acute is less than 90 degrees. So if you had this lined up and you read it wrong and you were thinking that this is 156 degrees, okay? Hopefully you can see that that doesn't logically make sense on this picture because this should be an acute angle where the number has to be less than 90 degrees. Same kind of thing over here. If you were to line this up here, and sometimes students will use the wrong scale looking at this, and they might say this is 52 degrees. Well, 52 degrees should be an acute angle. This is an obtuse angle right now, so I know that the 52 degrees could not be correct for this. Okay, so be careful about lining it up and measuring your angles. Here's an example. I'm supposed to name all the angles that have a vertex at B. Well, here's B. I have multiple different angles. I have this angle up on top. That's the first name I've written down. Angle GBA, or I could have reversed it and said angle ABG. Okay, put this little angle symbol, kind of try to keep it from looking like an L, or it's flat on the bottom and then angles up like this. Mine aren't great because I'm writing on a little slate here, but you have to have that angle symbol in the front so I know it's an angle. To name this angle over here, you can call this angle 5. This one down here you can call angle 6, and this one over here you can call angle 7. Okay. Instead of using the numbers, you can also then use the 3-letter names, but it's just more efficient to say the number name. So, like for example, 5, I could have also called 5 GBE, or I could have called it GBF. You just go along the angle like you're tracing it, start at a point. The vertex always has to be in the middle, and then something else that it goes through. So here I could pick either E or F to give another name to angle 5. They want to know the sides of angle 5. So here's angle 5, okay, right here. In pink, I have BE or BF. Make sure you start with the vertex point, the start point that doesn't have the arrow going through it, and then have the other letter no matter which way it's pointing. So these both have to start with B as you're going through it, okay? So BE or BF would be fine for the pink part. For the green part here, I could have BG. So make sure you name both sides when it asks you to name the sides. Write another name for angle 6. Well, here's angle 6. This whole thing here is angle 6. So I could name it EBD because I start at E, go through B, and then over to D. Or I could reverse it and say DBE. Now, because there's 2 letters along this ray going here, I could replace the E with an F instead. So instead, if you wanted to call it FBD, you could. That's still fine. And I could reverse that and say DBF also, and it would still be fine. Just make sure the letters along it, and just imagine that you have a highlighter, and you're just starting at the one point and tracing. The vertex is always in the middle, and then you go off to the other side. So which angle has a point X? Even if I didn't have this picture, I would automatically know that D is the correct answer. Because remember I said that when you're doing the 3-letter name, the vertex has to be, that letter has to be in the center. So automatically the only one that has X in the center is answer D. So AXB is this right here, or angle 3 would be another name for it. Okay, it has X as the vertex of the angle. There's other ones in the picture, but that was the only correct one out of the multiple choice. Right, again, we said was equal to 90. Notice the box. Acute is less than 90, and obtuse is more than 90, but less than 180. So we're supposed to classify angle TYV as right, acute, or obtuse. So first I got to figure out where it is. So here's T, down to Y, and over to V. So we're talking about this highlighted angle in green. It doesn't have a right box on it, but we can assume that this is a straight line going through here. And if this is a straight line, where we go from T to Y to X here, if this is 90 degrees over here, this is also going to have to be 90 degrees on the other half. So I know that this would be, oops, I'm circling the wrong one. This would be a right angle. Okay, this one first, when you look at it, without a picture or anything, it looks a little bit scary with just a bunch of letters and then some algebra stuff that they throw out. But here's the key to the whole problem. They want you to find the measure. Remember these little m's being the measure of the angle BHC and the measure angle DJE. When you're like, well, how in the world do I do that when there's not a picture? Well, the key to it is this part that I've highlighted in green. Remember this symbol in the middle? It means congruent. Congruent is going to mean that the two angles have the same degree measurement. Well, if they have the same degree measurement, then we can take the algebra that they give us and set it equal to each other. So I took the 4x plus 5 because that was BHC. So I'm replacing BHC with 4x plus 5. And I'm replacing angle DJE with 3x plus 30. You get an equation like this, and then it's just algebra. Remember, move your x's first. The smaller of the two is my preference. So I move 3x. I'm left with x plus 5 equals 30. Minus the 5. I get x equals 25. Let me get this guy out of the way. Once I know it's 25, remember to read your directions. The directions will not give 25 for the answer. It will give the value of angle BHC and angle DJE. So you need to plug it back in. So 4 times 25, I'm plugging it in here for the 4x plus 5. Replace x with 25. 4 times 25 is 100. 100 plus 5 is 105. Now, because these are congruent, I know already automatically that I should get 105 for this also, but I just did it as a double check. 3 times 25 is 75. 70 plus 30 is 105. So yes, the two angles are being congruent, just like it's set up here in the problem. Okay, that's all I have for 1-4. These notes are posted as a PDF online with your video, or you can go back and watch the video. Your assignment today is to be working on 1-4.